Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to Techxandar. This is part 2 of our Ulefone Armor X31 series. If you haven't watched part 1 yet, that's the unboxing. I'll link it right up here. Go check it out first if you want the full picture, then come back to this one. Today we are going through the full review, design and build quality, the display, the chipset and performance, the cameras, the battery, all the connectivity features, and everything else this phone has to offer. And at the end, I'll give you my honest verdict on whether this phone is actually worth buying in 2026. This is going to be a detailed one, so sit back, let's get into it. Let's start with what you see and feel first. The design and build quality. The Ulefone Armor X31 is clearly built to take punishment. The first thing you notice is the reinforced rubberized corners on all four sides. These are designed to absorb impact when the phone drops, and it will drop. That's kind of the point of this phone. The back has a textured ribbed pattern which gives you a solid grip even with wet or dirty hands. Combined with those rubber corners, this phone genuinely feels secure in hand, which matters a lot if you are working outdoors or on a job site. On the sides you have physical buttons, power, volume, and a dedicated programmable custom key on the left side. That custom key is one of my favorite features on this phone, and we will come back to it later. There is also a side-mounted fingerprint reader which works really well. And more importantly, it works reliably with wet or dirty hands, which is exactly what you need on a rugged phone. The USB-C port and the 3.5mm headphone jack both sit behind rubber flap covers to keep water and dust out. These need to be properly sealed before you take this phone near water, so keep that in mind. They are not the most convenient thing in the world, but they are necessary for the waterproofing to hold up. The phone comes in two colors, classic black and lightsome yellow. I have the yellow here, and it is definitely a bold choice, very visible, which actually makes practical sense. If you drop this on a hike or at a work site, you will spot it quickly. Dimensions are 173.78 by 82 by 13.65 millimeters, and it weighs 305.5 grams. That is heavy. No point pretending otherwise. But for a rugged phone with a 6050 mAh battery inside, 305 grams is actually on the slimmer and lighter side compared to a lot of competitors in this category. So relatively speaking, Ulefone has done a decent job keeping it manageable. Now let's talk about the durability ratings, because this is where the Armor X31 is supposed to shine. This phone carries IP68, IP69K, and MIL-STD-810H certifications. Let me quickly break down what each of those actually means. IP68 means the phone is fully dust tight and water resistant down to 1.5 meters for up to 30 minutes. So rain, splashes, puddles, shallow water, no problem. IP69K is actually the more impressive one. This means the phone can withstand high pressure, high temperature water jets. Think pressure washers. So if you work in construction, agriculture, food processing, or any environment where equipment gets hosed down, this phone can handle that. That is not something your average flagship phone can claim. MIL-STD-810H is a US military durability standard that covers extreme temperature resistance, shock resistance, and drop survivability. Ulefone rates the X31 to survive drops from up to 2 meters, that's 6.6 feet, and independently the EU Energy Label logs 270 successful drop tests passed. These are not just numbers on a box, the hardware backs it up. Gorilla Glass 5 on the display, reinforced corners, sealed ports, textured back. This phone is genuinely built to survive environments where a regular smartphone would not last a week. Moving on to the display, the Armor X31 has a 6.56-inch IPS LCD screen with a resolution of 720 by 1612 pixels, that is HD+, running at 90 Hz with a brightness of 800 nits. Let's be straightforward here. HD Plus in 2026 is a budget compromise. If you look closely at text or watch a detailed video, it is noticeably softer than a full HD or QHD display. That is a trade-off Ulefone made to keep the cost down. That said, for the actual use cases of this phone, it is fine. Reading maps, checking messages, using the camera, running the outdoor Toolbox apps, none of that requires a sharp 1080p panel. The 90Hz refresh rate makes scrolling feel smooth, and at 800 nits the display is readable in direct sunlight, which matters a lot if you are using this phone outside. Gorilla Glass 5 protects the screen. It is not the latest generation, but it is still solid glass protection that handles scratches and everyday knocks well. Combined with the tempered glass screen protector that comes in the box, your display has a decent amount of protection right from day one. Under the hood, the Armor X31 runs on the MediaTek Helio G91 chipset, built on a 12nm process with an Octa-Core CPU, 2 performance cores at 2.0 GHz and 6 efficiency cores at 1.8 GHz, paired with a Mali G52 GPU. You get 6 GB of physical RAM, and the phone supports up to 6 GB of virtual RAM on top of that, so up to 12 GB total when the system needs it. Storage is 128 GB, and you can expand it with a microSD card up to 2 TB on a dedicated slot, meaning you do not have to choose between a second SIM and extra storage. That is a nice detail. In terms of real-world performance, the Helio G91 is an entry-level chipset. For everything this phone is designed to do: calls, navigation, messaging, photography, running the outdoor tools, light browsing, it handles all of that without issues. Switching between apps is smooth, the camera opens quickly, everyday use feels responsive. If you are a heavy gamer looking to run demanding 3D titles, this is not the chip for that, and the phone is not trying to be. But for its intended audience, people who need a tough, reliable, everyday phone, the performance is completely adequate. The phone ships on Android 14 and runs a near-stock Android experience with no heavy skin on top and no pre-installed bloatware. That is something Ulefone specifically markets, and it shows. The software feels clean, fast, and clutter-free. Let's talk cameras. And this is actually one of the more interesting parts of the Armor X31. On the back you have a triple camera system. The main sensor is a 48 megapixel OmniVision lens with f1.8 aperture and phase detection autofocus. In good daylight conditions, this produces clean, sharp photos with decent detail. Colors are natural, not overly processed, nothing that will compete with a flagship camera, but solid for a phone at this price. Now here is the standout feature: the 20 megapixel Sony IMX350 infrared night vision camera. This is a real infrared sensor with 2 IR LEDs on the back, and it allows you to take photos and video in complete darkness. The images come out in monochrome, but they are genuinely usable. Think security use, wildlife spotting at a campsite, checking dark spaces at a work site. This is a legitimate tool, not a gimmick, and it goes further than just photos. The phone has a dedicated underwater camera mode where you can control everything: start, stop, switch modes, using the physical volume buttons and the custom key, because touchscreens stop working properly when submerged, so you can actually film underwater without fighting the display. The third camera is a 2 megapixel macro lens for close-up shots. It is a basic sensor and the results are average. I will be honest, this is the weakest part of the camera system and mainly exists to round out the spec sheet. Do not expect much from it. On the front you have a 16 megapixel Samsung sensor with f2.25 aperture. For selfies and video calls it does a solid job. Good detail in decent lighting, and it handles video calls well. Video recording goes up to 2K at 30 frames per second on the rear and 1080p at 30 frames per second on the front. There is no optical image stabilization on any of the lenses, so if you are recording while moving, expect some shake. For static shots and photos though, the results are better than you might expect at this price point. Battery life is one of the strongest areas of this phone. The Armor X31 packs a 6050 mAh battery, and in real-world use, it comfortably lasts 2 full days for most usage patterns. Ulefone rates it at 34 hours of talk time and 336 hours of standby. The EU Energy Label independently rates it at over 81 hours of endurance. Either way, this battery is built to last for anyone who works long days outdoors, in the field, or away from a power source. The 2-day battery life is genuinely valuable. You are not hunting for a charger at the end of every day. Charging is via USB-C at 18 watts wired. That is on the slower side by 2026 standards, and filling the full 6050 mAh cell from empty takes roughly 2 hours. Not fast, but the battery lasts long enough that you will typically be topping it up rather than charging from zero. And here is something worth mentioning that I confirmed. The Armor X31 also supports reverse charging. That means you can use this phone as a power bank to charge other devices. So if your earbuds run out or a friend's phone dies, you can cable up and share the battery. On a phone with 6050 mAh, that is actually a useful feature to have in the field. Let's go through the connectivity features because there is actually quite a lot here. Starting with mobile connectivity, the X31 supports 4G LTE with a very wide range of bands covering most networks globally. It supports dual SIM with dual 4G VoLTE, and again, the microSD slot is separate, so you are not giving up storage for a second SIM. There is no 5G on this base model, which is the main connectivity compromise compared to the Pro version. Wi-Fi is Wi-Fi 5 supporting dual band 2.4 and 5 GHz, solid for everyday use. Bluetooth 5.2 is on board, which is a modern and reliable standard, and there is NFC with Google Pay support, which is genuinely useful and not something every budget phone includes, let alone a budget rugged phone. For location, you have full quad-band GNSS, GPS, GLONASS, Galileo, and Beidou. That covers all the major satellite systems globally and means accurate positioning whether you are in a city or out in the wilderness. Very relevant for the target audience of this phone. There is also an IR blaster on the top of the phone. That means this phone can function as a universal remote control for TVs, air conditioners, and other devices. It is a feature that is increasingly rare on smartphones in 2026, and it is a practical bonus. The phone has a 3.5mm headphone jack behind a rubber cover, which a lot of people still appreciate having. There is FM radio on board as well. USB-C 2.0 with OTG support means you can plug USB accessories directly into the phone. And there is a tricolor notification LED on the front. One more thing, the phone is Widevine L1 certified. That means it can stream HD and full HD content from Netflix, Amazon Prime Video, Disney Plus, and other streaming platforms. A lot of budget phones are only Widevine L3, which limits you to lower quality streams, so L1 here is a real advantage. Now for some of the features that make this phone stand out from a regular budget phone. First, the programmable custom key on the left side. You can map this to whatever you want. Most people use it to trigger the dedicated 120 lumen flashlight on the back, and this is an actual torch, not just the camera flash LED. It is a proper bright flashlight that runs independently, very practical for any outdoor or work situation. Then there is the Outdoor Toolbox, a built-in app that bundles a compass, barometer with a real air pressure sensor, spirit level, protractor, height meter, sound level meter, and the underwater camera shortcut all in one place. These are genuine sensor-driven tools, not just app shortcuts. For hikers, field workers, and anyone working outdoors, this is a useful collection of instruments in one place. There is also gloves mode, which increases the touchscreen sensitivity, so the display responds properly when you are wearing work gloves. Simple feature, but one of those things that shows Ulefone actually thought about who is going to use this phone day to day. The side-mounted fingerprint reader and face unlock both work quickly and reliably. The fingerprint sensor in particular handles wet and dirty fingers better than most under-display or rear-mounted sensors, which again matters for this phone's audience. Alright, final verdict on the Ulefone Armor X31. This phone is designed for a very specific type of person. If you work outdoors, on a construction site, in agriculture, or if you hike, camp, fish, or do anything where your phone regularly gets exposed to water, dust, drops, and rough conditions. This phone makes a strong case for itself at around €170. You get genuine IP68 and IP69K waterproofing, MIL-STD-810H drop resistance, a 2-day battery, an infrared night vision camera, a real flashlight, a programmable key, reverse charging, NFC, a clean Android experience with no bloatware, and a wide range of connectivity features. That is a solid package for the price. The compromises are real. HD plus display, no 5G, 18-watt charging, a single mono speaker, and a basic macro camera. None of those are deal breakers for the target audience of this phone, but they are worth knowing before you buy. If you are the right person for this phone, someone who needs a tough daily driver that can take punishment and last 2 days on a charge, the Armor X31 is a genuinely honest recommendation. If you want 5G and a sharper display and can spend a bit more, the Armor X31 Pro is the step up to look at. And it is also worth checking the Armor X32, which is the newer model from Ulefone. But for what it is and what it costs, the Armor X31 does its job well. That is the full review of the Ulefone Armor X31. If you watched part 1 and part 2, thank you, that genuinely means a lot, and it helps the channel grow. Drop a comment below and let me know what you think about this phone, or if you have any questions about it. If you are not subscribed yet, hit that button and I will see you in the next one. Peace.